Welcome to Association Chat, an online discussion where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with topics of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in this online home for the community. I'm the host of Association Chat, KiKi L'Italienne, and is your association still calling it personalization when all you're doing is dropping in a first name on an email? Let's be honest, people expect a little bit more than that today. And I got to thinking about this. And I remember the first time that I got excited about personalization. And it was when an online bookstore that shall remain nameless nailed a recommendation for me based on what I had purchased before. And that moment, it stuck with me. And associations can do the same for their members. And that's why we're going to talk about what personalization should look like with a practical, realistic lens for associations. How do we do this? How do we deliver personalized member experiences without blowing your budget and needing a 10-person marketing team? So today we're joined by two people who live and breathe this work. Matt's Persson, CEO of open source CMS platform Umbraco, and Jake Toohey, the director of Adage Technologies Association practice. And I'm bringing them up. I'm so super excited. Here we are. Hello, Matts. Hello, Jake. Welcome to Association Chat.
KiKi.
Thank you, KiKi.
Thank you.
I know. I'm so excited. You know, it's a lot of people talk about personalization. They say that this is the thing that we need to do, but how do we do it? What does that mean? Where can we go? And so I'm so glad that we can talk about it. But first, what I wanted to do is to get a little bit of background about who you are and how you got here. So I want to start with your stories. Matt's. What led you to lead a global CMS like Umbraco? And then Jake, tell us how you got into association tech. So Matt, you first.
Thank you, KiKi. Well, I've been in the software industry for all my life. I usually say that I'm not old, but I've been around. So I've been in various ventures, big ones like IBM, but also startups going through the roof. But also I've been in bootstrapping companies. Well, how I came across and got engaged into Umbraco is that I was approached by the people that the investment firm that owns and the PE company that owns Umbraco. And what thrilled me was the open source. Actually, I haven't worked with that before, and it's been a tremendous good learning curve and interesting journey to get to know this superpower of the company, the community, and how we drive our business on top of that. So that's good. Yeah.
All right. And Jake, so talk to us about like association tech. What got you into that?
Yeah, well, I've been at Adage for about 13 years. Those of you who don't know Adage, we're a digital strategy web development agency based in Chicago. We're an Umbraco Gold partner. But yeah, I've been there for about 13 years. And what I love about the association space is not only the community that's so great and so vibrant, but every project is a little bit different. There's always a mission, and it's always meaningful. So, we talk about improving member engagement and streamlining education delivery or modernizing tech stack. So it's just really rewarding to get to work with organizations that make a real impact and kind of help them connect better with the people that they serve.
Well, and to that point, I mean, I have to say, because you're in the association space and you have been for a while, also, you also are co-host of a really great podcast that I love, the Association Podcast. And so I've heard you talk about personalization before, and I know that you've called personalization a white whale. And so why is it so elusive for associations?
Yeah, it's something that's in every RFP I've seen for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's kind of this big, ambitious goal. Almost every association or organization is chasing it, but most really either they don't know how to catch it, or they kind of run out of steam along the way. And I get that. It sounds like a magic solution. So it's like if we just show the right content to the right person at the right time, engagement's going to skyrocket. But in theory, that's true. But in reality, it takes a lot of work, and it's more than just kind of flipping a switch. So, I mean, you start with you need clean data. You need to integrate across multiple systems, like your AMS, your LMS, your community, and that's kind of rarely the case. So, the content itself, you can't personalize if you don't have content mapped to different personas or journeys. And when the tech and the content are there, you need the governance and strategy to sustain it. So it doesn't work if you just think you're going to flip a switch. There's an approach that you need to take, and you have to have a strategy, and you have to have clean data.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I know the clean data part can be a hang up. That can be a real barrier. And we could do a whole hour just talking about nothing but that on its own. But, it's like, I think there's this myth that's out there that it's just too hard. And so it's like somebody will get excited, an association executive will get excited. They go to a conference, they come back and they say, we need to, personalization is underlined 3 times and there's an exclamation mark. And then nothing happens, right? Or they, just barely scratch the surface and they say, yeah, I actually don't know what we can do. Mats, I want to turn this over to you and say, what does it look like? What should this look like? Because personalization can mean a lot. And so what do you say? I mean, what do you think that it can mean in 2025?
Well, absolutely. I would actually start, Jake. You said you saw that you come across it 10 years ago. I top that. I double up. Again, not being an old guy here or anyone there. How old is he actually? But 20 years ago, almost on the day, I heard about personalization the first time. It was the heydays of e-business. I was a young consultant for a PwC management consulting. We won a business with Co-op, which is a big retail chain in Sweden. And they were to build a retail center for an online shop. Because back then, if you were not on the internet, within 6 months, your business would die. It was a hype. Similar to AI hype we see now, but it was a hype. So we were in a meeting and this charismatic guy from the client, he said, okay, I want, of course, the whole site to be personalized to the full extent. And I looked at myself and I just wrote down on a piece of paper, personalization. Check that out. Yeah, of course we do. So, hey, let me make myself clear. This is the way it works. If I'm a customer who comes in, and this is fully true, this is exactly what he said. If I feel like an apple, the whole site should be sorted out according to my feeling. And I wrote down Apple. What does that mean? We're a couple of us in the meeting. We came out and we looked at each other. Did you get that with personalization? I never heard of it. What is the Apple thing? I have no clue. So we start getting into it. So personalizations I got, how we should tailor the site according to his feeling like an apple. We never got to that because the whole project was closed down because by other reasons, not due to that. Yeah. But I just remember it so well that was the first time I heard about it. And since then, it's been a part of, as you say, Jake, old RFPs, everything out there. Everyone wants to do it. And still, fast forward 20 years further, we're still where we over-engineer it. It starts with, to your point, Jake, a little bit also around that. We've all been in these kind of design workshops, design thinking workshop, Post-it, everything is allowed. Okay. Just go off. And you have a very creative workshop. It ends up with 13 different personas. Some of them, the majority of them are wishful thinking. It's not really personas. It's people that we would like to get onto our side. This is the more of wishful thinking. And then it all tops up with the perfect thing from someone said, what about all our external data that we get from our external advertising? Wouldn't that be possible to bring in? Yes, we want that too. Yes, absolutely. So that becomes a requirement at the very end of it. The whole parts of it, just to say, the last thing will delay the whole project with 12 to 14 weeks because IT says, oh, that's not possible really how to get that into it. The personas starts to trigger off a content management review because we simply can't think about the whole mess of all our digital asset management. Where do we get our data from? What are we actually presenting? And the whole thing just stops. There are data points out there now. 20 years later, where 90% of the most ambitious and the majority of the personalization projects never get to the end or even stops completely because it's over-engineered. So that will be my thing to this. simplicity. How do you keep that simple? How do you start simple? Because it needs to. How do you eat an elephant? You could do any metaphor there is. Over engineering, over ambitious. That's what I see with all these personalization projects. We cannot still solve that Apple problem, but that's not. I need to find him, I think, and see. Have you ever got to your Apple solution?
Right.
Well, that's another. Well, sorry, KiKi, I'm diverting from the subject, but that's that's my 2 cents on it.
I love this story. I think that the start simple concept and the whole argument to do that is really good. But when you say start simple, what does that look like? Like, because some people would say, well, you want to talk about simple, it is the first name. It's like, hello, Frank. And then that's pretty much it. But getting from one spot to another, what does that look like?
The ambition doesn't have to be low, but it still starts simple as it is. So first and for all, what is the purpose of the digital experience you provide, the websites? What is the purpose of it? As an association, for example, what's our purpose? And first and all, start building the personas or in the profiles. Sorry, the profiles. Mm-hmm. How do actually their people engage with it? What are the typical areas where people seek to? What do they expect when they come in there? One of the things that my community, or where I live in the city, there is a homepage on them. They trying to promote all kind of things, but every time I go there, the only thing that I want to know is when my trash bin is going to be emptied next time, because I keep on forgetting it, because I need to put it out by the street. And they figure that out. So it's on the first page. It is. So they've done that's simple personalization, because they've seen that on the track. My profile, when I log in, when I get in there, that's what he's been looking for. So start with there, trying to figure out how do people orient. Yeah. There are you could go on the other extreme. I'm full of stories. A big company that I worked for, don't check my but it's 85% of all white papers produced by them are never downloaded. They're never downloaded.
Wow.
Just imagine that. Just start there. What do people use? Because that is as simple as it. Based on that, what are then the expectations from the users coming in? Mm-hmm. Then you could start building personas on the back of that. Simple. 1 or 2 or 3. We typically have, our example is coffee or tea, cat or dog. We can divide it into 2, maybe 3, which makes it easy to say, well, then here's the path for them. This is the typical area where we want to drive them to, and start showing and be more promotive and say that we can then, based upon those personas, be able to show the right content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's what you're talking about, Matt. That's kind of the behavioral side. What do people like? Understanding their preferences, but also understanding what are they clicking on. Associations have so much information about not only what they're doing on the web, but what events have they attended? What courses do they take? Are they active in the online community? So like those kinds of little interactions can tell you what a person's actually interested in, and not just what a profile said 5 years ago when they filled it out, when they joined the organization. And that's why we really advocate for a kind of a crawl, walk, run approach.
Yeah, you have it, because you add that to it.
Absolutely.
Then you could build on that, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of, and then you will also be able to see in that approach again, now that didn't work. That data point is, okay, should we fix that data point and get that data clean and cleansed? Yep. How valuable is it? No, leave that. Let's go with this instead. So you build your experience to it.
And the profile, you can progressively profile and update it constantly. And that's something I think associations really struggle with, is making sure that they have up-to-date information about their members, non-members, any of their constituents.
Ooh, I love that so much, because what you're talking about is, I think, is conquering probably one of the biggest barriers to doing this right. And it's saying, like, it doesn't take a big team necessarily. It doesn't take, but you really have to get comfortable with looking at the behavioral, the evolving changes and needs and actions of your people, your membership, and what they care about, what they're looking for. And that doesn't stay the same. Like if you fill out a survey, your industry, especially we've watched, is in society and all of the different things that are happening around the world as technology advances too. People's needs change, believe it or not. And, there's been a lot of change in the world. So it makes sense to track on this. So I really love that you're talking about this. Jake, in the past, you've talked about associations being content factories, and so we know that I haven't come across an association yet that didn't have a ton of information and a ton of content that's available to them, but how they're using it. So what I would love to know is, from you, how do you think associations should leverage this content? Because that's maybe where they struggle sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, they're constantly producing like world-class content, events, webinars, white papers, certification materials, advocacy updates. So there's this massive output of content, but the problem is that most of the content just kind of piles up in silos, and maybe it's published once, maybe it gets emailed out, and then it's kind of on to the next thing. So what I think is personalization, it's really about redistributing the content that you already have in smarter ways to the people who need it most. And that's like the relevancy thing. Associations need to remain relevant. And that's some things that a lot of them struggle with. So if you're always creating more content, you can get away from the value of the content that's already been made. So all it might take is tagging it a little bit better, structuring it better, or connecting it to member data. So when personalization is done well, it's kind of going from a content factory to a recommendations engine. So,
yeah.
One example that I carry with me there on an association, exactly to the fact that how do you stack or tag? This is an example where it was an association for lawyers, divorce people working with divorces, divorce lawyers. It's a category of lawyers called divorce lawyers. And this was an association for them. And they had a classic lawyers, trying to categorize them the way lawyers categorize their documents. And so it's a pile of it and hard to search. They then realized that twisting it around and looking at the client of the lawyers, right? Where are they? And then build personas for them, because either you are, I'm not divorced myself, but it's easy to understand. I'm about to get divorced. I am divorcing, and I've been divorced. Looking at that, a way to look upon the end client and then start sorting material after that. And that created a lot of better engagement, way more better, because you could categorize your content. What is then getting even deeper into it? What is the type of situation for them? Categorizing whatever, more terms, crisis. This is then whatever is needed in those two phases. So again, simple. And that drove a lot of better engagement to it.
I love that. That's like the low-hanging fruit. Just talk to the members or talk to your constituents like they want to be talked to or expect to be talked to. And it happens all the time with medical associations too. You have to kind of speak the language that, lawyers and doctors, lawyers and doctors talk to each other a lot differently than the clients talk about them. And you need to understand that, or else you're never going to deliver or have the content searchable, findable. And that's the relevancy thing that I just talked about too.
And in my mind, and just that's more of a question or thoughts from my side, is where the borderline goes from what you want to, present. There's also association have always some kind of means, visions. This is what we want to, and what the members want to see. And the gap there, or the overlap, is clearly this is what to be provided. This is information that we have, and this is what the members wants to have. But the upper part of it, well, that's marketing. That's not personalization itself. It's where you want to promote certain things to certain people. But in kind of understanding, isn't that important to understand the difference there? Because that's where you drive more for the personas. These are typically the ones that should be interested in this. And then you are more marketing or trying to push your content rather than to provide exactly what they want. A lot of associations in my world needs to provide a certain data, certifications, for example. This is this, but there's also an ambition, and not mixing those. That I think, and that it is a crawl and run where you can start doing the basics, and then you can get to the not too complicated, but getting. And we show that in our system that you can easily then with the persona start promoting certain things that you believe is of value to them. Start measuring that, and then you start. It's kind of a tiny marketing campaign, right? If they start picking up this, does that work? A and B testing comes on top of that, also something onto it.
So I just want to say right now, for anybody who's watching this live, or maybe you're watching the replay or something like that, if this is already getting your wheels turning, you just hit pause, forward this to a colleague that you talk strategy with. These are conversations that we need to be having regularly, because the ability to really properly connect and break through the noise right now, we have the ability, we have the technology, and we're going to go into that next. We're going to talk a little. I want to talk to Mats about what Umbraco does and like how that interacts, that technology piece that supports it. But we need to be talking about the strategy behind how we're trying to connect with people, because we are competing for attention all the time, nonstop. I've had several different, I have my watch going off, giving me notifications all the time. I have my phone going off over here. And if we're expecting to connect with people and stay relevant, to Jake's point, to members, how are we going to do that if we're not better at figuring out how to use the tools available to us to speak the language of our members and to really connect based on what it is that they need? So there we go. I had to jump on the platform and like, let's do something with this. Mats, how does Umbraco support automated personalization for associations that have lean teams? I know tons of association executives who they're scrappy. They've got like a lean team. They're trying to figure out how to do, they wear many different hats, as we say, and they're trying to do a million different jobs all the time. So how does the technology support working with a team like that?
Yeah. And I think that's the sweet spot where we at. There are, as I usually say, competitors to ours, and Jake, you know more about this than I do of what our competitors can do. But my view is that there are systems out there that are more advanced, also more complicated, with more features, bells and whistles than we have. Mm-hmm. Our system is very capable, but it's simple. Mm-hmm. It starts simple and you build upon it. The crawl, walk, run metaphor again. You easily set up the whole persona, be able to set that up, the tracking, the definition, the whole measurement is very easy. The reports you get up are the accurate ones that you need. What is the visits? How does the measurements works? What is the heat map? If you want that. So again, the simplicity is, and that's what we get a lot of credits around, because it starts. You don't have to start with the 13 personas and get that in. You can build it as you go. You rate simple way of tracking and giving points to various sites. So you build the persona on the back of that. So you gradually get wiser of how things are used. And on the back of that, you can then start promoting the right content. But what we say, start dividing the site into 2, 3, whatever it is. This is actually, there's coffee and tea lovers, or cat and dogs, or, just having that, which then you can easily divide your content in that, and then gradually get wiser in how you build that into, on the top of that, getting more personas in, getting external data in. Yes, you can do all that. But what I think, given that we are a lot of small clients, associations, a lot of them that don't have a huge budget for this, and that's where our product comes from. It's an acquisition we did last year from one of our community tools and from our marketplace. So that's where it's coming from, the simplicity. And it's really nice, and it gives all the graphical user interface and user friendliness to it. Jake, now it's very good that you say, yeah, that's true. That's exactly what we experience.
Mm-hmm. That is. Simple to use, easy to use, and beautiful on the back end.
Yeah.
I want to talk about data. I want to get into that because, everybody's talking about, especially with the use of our generative AI and everything, more than ever, people are talking about how data is our gold. And so let's talk about that, especially for associations. We've established they have a lot of data, not always clean. Jake, what data should associations be collecting to personalize effectively, to do this well?
It's a great question. I think a lot of associations jump to personalization without thinking about the data. So you have to start from kind of square one. I talked about a little bit earlier, what are people doing in the online community? I gave ASAE a lot of credit a couple of years ago. It may have been MMC or maybe it was ASAE Tech. They looked at the online community and saw what were people talking about, and they built the program around the things that people were talking about. So there's things like that. We talked about, what they're clicking on, what courses they've taken. But on the demographic side, you want to look at things like not only role, but where they're at in their career. I mean, most of the associations we work with, they break their personas into early career stage, kind of middle of their career, and then kind of winding down, whether they want to join a board or something like that. So understanding that, their member type, geographic location, those are kind of table stakes. You want to understand their specialties, and that kind of gives you a foundational layer to group people into those relevant segments so that you can deliver content in a relevant way. But it only works if the data is connected. So you want to look, your LMS, are you collecting data in all of the systems and keeping it in all the systems? Because if you are, you have to ask yourself why. So if you want to talk about like in their LMS, where they're at in their career, what we advocate for is, can you serve up content to them and say, like, if you take this course, you can progress in your career to this stage, you can make more money, and you can kind of achieve these goals. But you can't do that if you don't understand where they're at in their career, and you don't have the platform to serve that kind of content up. So tracking engagement, talking to each other. The good data strategy isn't about what you collect. It's about how you centralize it and activate it in a way that's more usable by your CMS or your personalization engine or your LMS.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
And again, what you're at there is the business case, what you want to achieve, and then go the way, where's the data? How can we be able to keep this, get that information? Do we have that system? And then you drive your data engineers towards that, starting from the other way around, saying we have a lot of data, we should do something about it. It's never worked. You don't build the business case on the back of that. It's what you need for it. What do we want to achieve? It would be good if we could track where they are in their career. Okay, how do we do that? It would be good to understand where the lawyers and the end clients are. How do we track that? Can we find data sources for that? Can we easily track it? Is there someone else do it? Can we be, round and about? We don't need to be that precise. It's what's accurate and what's less accurate. Trying to achieve, working from that end. And then trying to find it's better to have something going than nothing.
Yeah. I'm like daydreaming over here because I'm thinking about what you're talking about, and I'm thinking about, all of the ways that we want to use our data to make better decisions, to make more effective decisions, and how that can make things better and better for our members. But then there's, not to bring up a dark or depressing topic, but then there's the question about security and this question about how are we keeping, we're supposed to be responsible for keeping our members or anyone's data that we come in contact with and we hold safe. And that's become more and more of an issue for sure, where I've honestly heard more questions about this in the past, especially since all the discussion around AI and how's it being used and how's our data being used and yada, yada, yada. I've heard more discussion about this and heard more questions about this data security in the past 2 years than I have ever. And and it's definitely top of mind. So all of that's to say, how does, and this is a question for you, Matt, how does Umbraco's Microsoft backing translate into stronger digital security? How does that make our data safer? Or does it? I don't know.
It
I think
does.
it does.
No,
Right?
I mean, of course, it is a backbone that is very robust and for our safety, but nothing is perfect. Neither is Microsoft. They work a lot with security, of course, and so there's constant security patches. It's an ongoing war how to do that, and how to manage that. Just to put in reference, just want to put the seriousness of this. There are currently more bots out there than people on the net. There are more bots than people. Cybercrime is estimated to be the third largest economy in the world. So it's massive parts of it. And that's the brutal forces around it. And also the reason why people are discussing it, that's that anyone that gets hit by this is just such a crash scenario. It's horrifying. I mean, for an association, if it comes true that all the members' data has been leaked, it's a death sentence, right?
Yeah.
And even further, if you get hacked into it and your whole IT system with a ransomware or something, the way it completely paralyzed entire organizations. So it's not small stuff. DDoS attacks we can live with, that's okay. And those, but when it's coming deeper into it, it's enormous risks, and it hurts enormously. So of course it is something that needs to be taken very seriously. But what we do, and we have it's our second largest team in order to, because it's so important for us, to ensure that our security is absolutely in par and at top where it should be. But we're also very clear about it. We're transparent with it. So my recommendations to everyone out there, that companies that claim that they haven't had any issues, that haven't had any breaches, they're lying. Should be transparent about this. Yes, we've had problems. We have sorted them out. They are absolutely not of any higher severity, fortunately, and cross my fingers that won't happen, but it's a constant threat of it. And yes, we're backing it up, but it's not a full insurance. We don't lean backwards and say, well, we're on a Microsoft platform, we're working with them. We have our own team that's really secured and focus onto it. Well, as Forrest Gump says, that's all I had to say about that.
I love that reference. I haven't, I need to go back because that's such a, anyway, yeah. I don't know. I think that the security thing, I just had a guest on, Brian Scott, talking about the cybersecurity issue. And it's honestly, it's not a matter of if, but when. And it will happen. The associations, they need to be prepared for this sort of thing. You cannot be too safe. And I think it starts with, and I try to, work this into conversations when technology comes up, but, we're working with so many, associations are working with so many tech providers and third parties that really having the discussion like what we're talking about right now is super important, because you need to understand that whoever you're working with, they're thinking about these things, that they're taking them into consideration. They take them seriously. The fact that you said that the security part is the second largest team that you have, I think that speaks to that and demonstrates the importance that you place on.
But the biggest, but the biggest threat is user errors internally. It's the clicking on the links. That's the vast majority of it. That's the way they're getting into it. So the internal security is equally important as the software. So you have to have that security understanding that yes, you work with partners and platforms that provide the security, but also the usage of it. How do you use these things? All the way to very blunt. There were some associations that used ChatGPTs, and they put up all their they uploaded all their personal their staff information up to ChatGPT to give me a summary of that, and off it went, right?
Mhm.
That's what you're referring to AI, but it's user errors. AI won't be able to. I mean, that's still ransom and the way the cyber crimes are trying constantly to get in with phishing emails and ransom, and the phishing emails you see, and they're getting more and more delicate how they do that.
Yeah.
But the link clicking is the highest risk to it,
Mhm.
and no platform in the world can help you on that, because it's part of ecosystem to do that. So using AI carefully, understanding what's secret and how you treat your data, and especially your members' data. Then last point is to have a look upon the data that we store. Do we actually need that? If we by some historical reason store some sensitive data, because back then we needed that in order to do this, is that really needed at this point? Or can
Yeah.
we live with just the cookie, the name, the login, whatever? Can we make it more easier to do that? Which means that if we get exposed, we can at least say there were no sensitive data provided or less sensitive data. So you just don't, by historic reasons, sits there with the sensitive data of your users or members.
Ooh, okay. So, and what I'm hearing from that, you just made such a great point, because it's like more isn't always better. More data, friends, is not always better. Maybe you don't want some of that old stuff that was stored in your system from forever ago. Maybe it's better that you don't have all of that, right? So, when is it a good idea to, when you're thinking about cleaning data, a lot of times it's just making sure that you don't have dupes or old stuff. But maybe it's time to clean it in a way where it's like, yeah, we really don't need that. And we don't need to be responsible for that portion,
And
right?
start with your membership application. Like, how much
Oh,
are you
yeah.
asking for there?
Yes.
You've seen some membership applications and, asking for 50,
Yeah.
75 data points.
It's insane. And actually, okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that, because I know that when one of the barriers, a lot of people get nervous talking about the integration and having systems talking to one another and all of that kind of thing. So I want to talk, and this is a question for you. Oh, look, hey, those people who are listening to this later, the thing where you're doing the hand gestures and it responds, that just automatically did that in my screen. So I just wanted to explain what I was talking about there. Jake, I wanted to ask you about the integration question, which is, how should associations approach integrating their CMS with systems like AMS and CRM and ABC and EFG?
Yeah. I mean, Matt's mentioned starting with the business case. Yeah, so I think it starts there. Start with the goals. Understanding what you're trying to achieve with integrations. Table stakes is really SSO, streamlining the login process. So that's a very, very baseline integration that really needs to happen for everything. But when you look a little bit kind of bigger picture, you can use your AMS data, your LMS data, all the different platforms for creating member dashboards, serving up dynamic content and dynamic content blocks for different membership status, people at different membership statuses. So you really need that kind of clarity, but I wouldn't assume that it's all or nothing. So you can't integrate everything. It's not a reality, and it's not worth it. So sometimes it might be just enough to sync the member ID, their role, their status, their career stage, to start showing personalized content. And that's where kind of that crawl, walk, run approach applies here. So, if you talk about it, your AMS, if the membership status field, if it's active, lapsed, if they're a prospect, that data needs to sync to your CMS to show the website that there's a renewal prompt or a join or attend this event or just putting up a CTA. So the things like that, or in your LMS with your, understanding course completion data for where they're at. And, say when a member finishes a certification course, you want them to update their profile in the AMS, send them a personalized email, unlock access to, different content that might be kind of next in the journey along their certification path. So that data flows through 3 different systems. So you have to understand that and understand who's governing that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if there's a theme that I'm picking up on from our discussion today already, it's simplify. Let's focus on
And
simplicity.
and go. I would even say go around also. As you, Jake, said, if you end up with, you realize the business case would be that let's put up. We have that information about users in the CRM systems, then or in the ERP system, for example. And I had a conversation in Minneapolis when I was there the other week with a client, not in associations, but they had the similar thing. But when they approached the finance department and said, we would like this data from the ERP system, it turned out that they were using an ERP system that was so old, so they couldn't integrate towards it. They can only do manual export of CVS files, and it was a dump of the database, which was impossible to read. So they had to just, okay, what do we do then? Do we wait for them to upgrade and implement a new ERP system, which there were some sense in the plan? No, they just backed off, go around. How can we manage this, do this anyway? Trying to go to, don't get hindered by that. Easier said than done. I realize that, but that's, again, what can we get out? And if there's a hinder along the way, then try to achieve other types of goals while you're waiting for it. So it's, again, crawl and run. The path is not linear.
Yeah, it's not. And I think that, that actually, let's talk about some paths. Let's talk about some real life stories, because I think, it's not just the association industry, but I think it's sometimes, especially in the association industry, we learn from what others are doing. And if I'm working with one association client, they want to know the case studies. They want to know who's done what that worked and how did it work for them, and how are they similar to our organization. So if I had to ask, and this is a question for both of you, if I had to ask you both, what are some real life success stories that you've seen, an association that did this personalization really well? What would be like one of your favorite success stories to share? And this could go either, Jake, if you've got this, you want to answer first, and then we'll go to Matt's.
Sure. I mean, we're working with National Association of Corporate Directors right now. We are focusing on things like membership status, so tracking if a visitor is a member, what their membership type is, their engagement level, which is monitoring login frequency and content consumption, and then interests. So what topics are they browsing on? Are they clicking on? And determining if a user is a board member or pursuing board roles, so where they're at in their career stage. And then, doing things like moving users to, like, we miss you if they've been inactive for a period of time. But we've done some things. I mean, the American Academy of Pediatrics is an extreme example where we do have a personalization engine running for their e-commerce, which just served up products based on other things that they had purchased or content that they are clicking on. And I think the first year we did that, they did like $1 million in extra revenue generated just from the product recommendations engine itself. So, there's a lot of really cool things you can do with the tools that are available.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love a success story that equals, like, if your ears aren't perking up at the dollar signs that are connected to that, it's like, I don't know, maybe you're dead. I have no idea. But you want to have a success story like that. Matt's, what's a success story that you can share?
Well, I already emptied my it's the divorce lawyers.
That's a good one.
Sounds like I'm, but I'm not. I am married. And I'm not getting divorced. So that's not the reason why. I think it's tailored for it. Now my wife says it's too much paperwork to get divorced. We've been married for 30 years, so it's a solid marriage. Now, anyway, I would actually be. There are a few things that I reflect upon, but the fact is that we are system suppliers. That is, it's actually Jake and his colleagues out there that knows all about the cases. We see what we provide and the feedback we get from Jake, and we go through partners. So again, I can only, where we see that the simplicity, that the small companies that actually not have that huge ability to run these personalization, they could start easily, and they are really good. Oh, this is great. We started with these small things and they gradually build on top. But that's what we see. That's the conversations I have. So on the cases. But one reflection is that I worked in the media industry, which is a little bit to the side of it, where the cookies are, and if there's anything, retargeting that we all got to know a couple of years ago, that hasn't become better. It's just it's like a Turkish. It's like being in Turkey and you're at somewhere. You're going into a store and you touch a pair of headphones, and before you leave, this is retargeting in real life, fictive. You touch the headphones, and before you leave the shop, the sales guy has been up there and said, "Headphones, headphones, 3 times." When you leave, you go down the street and you're into another shop, and the guy's there again, headphones. And you go out in shopping market. The day after, he's when you eat breakfast, headphones. He's there. So at the point where it is at the end of the day 2, you decide, okay, I'll buy the headphones. You buy the headphones, and 2 minutes later, he's back again, headphones. That's retargeting in real life. It follows you all the where it is. I don't know how much this is going to be used. It's just a story. So again, what we can learn from that is that, yes, from the data that goes cross-device, as we know, all the way out of the nodes. It's just that, and that hasn't become better. So let's not overwhelm it either, I would say, to go on capabilities, because if it becomes too much of aggressiveness, or too intimate, that you're kind of digging, how do they know this? It's becoming a little bit too personal. So personalization is to reach people with the right content at the right time, with the right frequency. That's what marketing is working a lot. Frequency capping, reach. So we can learn a little bit from that, and here also maybe getting that into, and I don't know if that is, Jake, something you can, when you're getting in frequency and reach, for example, that's talked a lot in marketing to get here. How often do we actually promote this? These are things we can control, but rarely spoken about, maybe. Now I'm asking the question, sorry, KiKi, but Jake, what about frequency and reach?
Yeah,
I mean, I think you have to understand getting the right, like you said, getting the right content to the right people at the right time, and not falling into, you put together a content calendar and we follow this. You have to be more dynamic with people's preferences and the relevancy of content. And you have to get things out there at the right time to people.
Yeah. Well, and to that end, I mean, and this is actually, Matt, that was a great, you actually shared, you went down a great path, because you're talking about, the going into the shops in Turkey and the headphones and all of this stuff. For associations, it's like, when is it too much? When are you trying to do too much too fast? So that means, it doesn't mean that you set it up and you sort of forget about it. You have to keep testing things. You have to keep seeing what's working. So I think that that's also where people can go wrong too, is we've talked about when they try to make it too complicated. We've talked about when they should be looking at what people are like, what they really care about and how that changes. Let's talk about, for associations that are getting started, they're just getting started with personalization, and they're beginning to explore, what does this ongoing testing look like? What is maybe a better approach for, making sure that something's working, their personalization is working? Because I do fear that, in order to get so many things done, that once something's set up, they're like, all right, there we go. We got some personalization, on to the next thing. And they don't go back and check.
Two things there. One is the continuous development and the continuous evaluation and building personas. We talked about that earlier, but A and B testing, that's what it's called. That's the functionality in our system where you do that. If you do A, B, and C testing, suddenly it's too complex. My world. I don't know, Jake. Do you do A, B, and C testing sometimes?
We do multivariate testing a little bit, but not everybody can handle that. And it's probably a little bit overkill for a lot of associations.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So A and B testing. This works. This doesn't. And I promise that there will be results that, didn't know that. We thought this is the best thing since sliced bread. But turned out no one's interested. It's And some egos are killed along the way that, oh, well, we thought this was good. Then you smoothly, well, it was good, but it could be better. Here's something else. Actually, they just want to see when the trash bin is being emptied. That's what they want to see. It's nothing more about. So A and B testing, get on with that and do it actively and be open-minded and do that along the way. Right, Jake?
Yeah. I mean, it's starting with some testing. I mean, if you're not testing at all, I mean, there's a lot of associations, most I would say, aren't doing just simple A and B testing. So start there. I mean, that's a mindset. That's a culture thing.
That's so great. I was going to ask that. I was going to say, like, what percentage do you think actually even do this right now?
5.
Yeah. That's sad.
The beauty of this is that you can come to on an end of the door or along the journey is that you actually become something different. We started off, we were actually for this. It can transform your whole business because we were back there. We had this old thing. I mean, just making up a story. I mean, we were it was almost dying. No one was logging in. We're doing this for this. And it was all these old. And then we started realizing that they were interested in this. And that has become, so yeah, unfortunately, we're not served the old, but we've become this. That's the journey you can get into. If you ultimately can transform your business based upon this insights, then you have been on the right journey. Then you have done personalization. Then you have discovered, which is not the means. So where the users takes you, where your client takes you, that's proper evolution or even entrepreneurship.
Okay. So entrepreneurship, tech evolving, and lots of themes and changes happening. Looking ahead, and this is a question for both of you. What emerging trends in tech do you think will reshape how associations personalize experiences?
Yeah. Jake, you go first.
I would start by saying that what I think is really interesting possibility, which we're not doing yet, but we're exploring, sentiment analysis is something that using artificial intelligence, using machine learning, these AI and machine learning have been around for a long time, but everybody talks about better engagement. That's like a goal, but how do you measure that? So I think that we may get to a point soon where we can better measure actual engagement. And that might be using things like customer data platforms. Those are becoming more accessible. You can get more of a 360-degree view of your members and understand them better. And if you have kind of those real-time insights, you can deliver personalization a lot better and a lot more effectively. So I think understanding and like being able to measure engagement using AI is something that seems like it could be very interesting.
Ooh, that's a good one. You know, I actually, Mats, you were making your I'm old references earlier. Well, I'm old too. And I go all the way back to remembering earlier days of sentiment analysis and the tools that we would use. And it was highly flawed sentiment analysis that trying to gauge in the early days of some of these tools, you just kind of would look at it and it's like, how much can I really, I've got to dismiss so much of this, but I think it's getting so much better. And so that's very exciting, Jake, actually, to think about that,
My take on the again, I've been around, but I'm not old. That's what I usually say. Neither are you. But anyway, that's another thing. So it is a known fact that we do overestimate short-term impact of technology and underestimate the long-term. It happened back in the heydays of e-business. Everyone needed to be on the internet. If they weren't on the internet within 6 months, they would all die. It took 15 years until everything. And of course, the long-term impact has been enormous for us, the way we interact, the way we do mobile phones and all that. Yes, AI has an enormous impact, but it's overhyped as it is now. And also tendency is that we at that point, and it happened before, is that we are building business cases on the back of technology. There's so many out there that says AI. We need to do something about AI.
Right.
I have a friend working for a big consultancy firm. They are signing up a big contract with the client. They are building 2,000 AI agents. 2,000. They have built 7 so far.
Right.
And they're trying to find the 8th and the 9th. And they just see their contract says 2,000. For what? Again, on the back of technology, we're building business cases. That will gradually change as we see where it's going to come in gradually. So, of course, there are massive changes of it. And the reason for my take on it is that we are now hyping it so much at this point is that the capabilities of ChatGPT and the way they can do complex things is just nothing but impressive. Mm-hmm. How they take, you could just file in 200 CVs and get a summary of it, and even the best kind, you could all the things of it. And the way we start searching now, and there's another twist of it. We start using Google. It took us 10 years to understand how SEO works and how you optimize that with clicks and headlines and all that. We all know that. We have SEO experts, and our system provides an SEO plugins and all that, so we optimize that. Now it's GEO, generative engine optimization. And Jake, you talked with your clients about this also, of course. And that is another thing. Because there's a couple of things that makes it more complicated is that the providers are coming. It's yes, ChatGPT, OpenAI, and there's others. There's one added every week more or less with different models and how they work. Nothing is open, so we don't know really how they work. That's one thing to understand how that happens. The difference of it is that you also get to the point where you even not get a referral, so you click onto it. You already have the summary in your, which you kind of, and since it's so damn good on things, the trust of it is enormous. If you go out and ask, how do you pull a summary out of ChatGPT? Do you believe in it? Yes, but it's like a doctor that is really trustworthy of being a doctor. But he's, sometimes doctors can everything, and you trust them because they're trustworthy. Which my wife would say the opposite with you, Matt. No one believes what you say because you're saying so much. But anyway, again, I promise not to talk about my wife. I'm not getting divorced.
It's like she's the unofficial additional guest that we have today.
Off topic. Okay. Yeah, you could. We got Matt's wife here as a follower. Anyway. So the fact is with this is that you trust the output of it. So there are certain things that you need to know as an association or the ones that driving anything that you would like to promote or get out there on your website is that how do you tell that? Well, there's a few examples, a few recommendations. No one has cracked the full GEO theory, but it is long tail keywords is getting more important, like feed. Close to if you're a pizza, you need a pizza house, or you need to know close to the park atmosphere, those things that typically people start asking about, not rather just that. Also, SEO is still very important. Great top ratings because you search for the best one of it. But that's something that needs to be considered also for associations, because some of them that wants to promote for new members, they don't even get to the site. They will just confront and get the results in ChatGPT, right? And how that there's one example that is quite interesting for you, Jake. It's we have a partner in Chicago, and no, that was in Minneapolis, and they said we got a cold call from a client in Washington. We've never been there. We are only around here in Minnesota and up north here, so we haven't got that. And they said the way they found them were that they went on ChatGPT because they were not satisfied with their current partner, current agency they were working with. So they said, give us an alternative to, and put the name in of the one that were dissatisfied, with the following capabilities, not much. And out of that, it was this Minnesota that came in as first. And they just called them. It wasn't even a negotiation. They said, we want to work with you. Who said that? ChatGPT.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's so beautiful. I just love the with the additional context that you provide in any, like whether it's long tail keywords or whether you're like thinking about what you're plugging into your prompts when you're doing, using ChatGPT or your favorite LLM. It's like, I just love how we can zero in on the information we're looking for or what is the most relevant to us so much easier for so many tools now. It's just beautiful. I love that, Okay, so I'm not going to wax poetic about, GEO or anything like that today. We're going to go into the last question because I do want to do my rapid fire round with you both. So before we get right to that, the last question for each one of you: what's one thing that association executives can do this week to step up their personalization game?
You want me to go first? All right.
Gotcha.
I guess the theme of this conversation so far has really been simplicity and starting small. And in a week, identify one segment that really matters to you and map out what they're currently experiencing across your digital channels and just have an understanding of that. So what they're seeing on the homepage or what emails they're getting. And you might find out that there's a lot of quick wins. So, I mean, we've seen things where, an association is sending the same emails to brand new members as they are to longtime 10-year members. So start small, and you have to start with mapping things out and really getting an understanding of what you're doing so that you can act on it.
And I agree. And I can add to that, maybe leaving history behind you, because there is such a track record of poorly evaluated. So maybe they all go, listen to this. No, we're not going there. I was there. We did that last year. That cost a fortune. Well, there is a better way to approach it. So leave that behind, get a fresh start.
Yeah. I love it. And Helen, hi, Helen. I'm glad that you're watching today. She says, I wrote about the phenomenon of generative engine optimization on Friday on LinkedIn, and my comments blew up from SEO people telling me how wrong I was. It was the most XKCD 386 moment I've had in years. Yes. I'm so sorry I actually saw this for you, right? I actually observed this happening and was like, wow, okay, all right. people are getting
Helen,
the SEO.
Feels like I'm responsible for the Helen. Just SEO is still very important. It won't replace. It is absolutely tied together, but it is a new thing. So being SEO people just ignoring, stick their head in the sand and say this is not impacting. That's wrong. So we're all for you, Helen. Go, go, go.
We're for you. We are for you, Helen. Absolutely. All right. So we're being supportive. And I want to support you, but in order to do that, you're going to have to play this game, folks. And so, Jake, here you go.
All right.
Drum roll. What's a tech buzzword you secretly wish would go away?
Disruption.
That's a good one. All right. It's a great answer. Mats, what's one app or tool you couldn't do your job without?
Apple tool.
Okay.
Or what was the question? Which
app
tool?
or tool?
App or tool, not tool. Apple tool. That would be like a peeler, like an apple peeler or something.
No, I feel like an apple today, so I kind of need the apple peel. No, a tool that I can't live without. I mean, I can't live without my phone. Sorry to say, it's the tool.
Okay, and this is the last one for both of you, and that is, what is the best conference swag you've ever received? Best conference giveaways you've ever received?
So I don't get the good swag because we're a vendor usually.
I feel sorry for you.
Personalized Stanley.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
I know there's better stuff out there. Some of the hospitality.
Yeah, I know those hospitality folks
stuff.
get so lucky. Yes.
I once had a presentation for and I got a bottle opener that seems to be the best bottle opener we've had. We still have it. It's 15 years ago, so I would say a bottle opener. Yeah, but otherwise, Jake, as you say, we just hand out swags all the time.
Yes.
We're always looking for the best swag. We're always trying to come up with new ideas.
Isn't everyone? I feel like everybody's always looking for the best. I was just curious. What have you observed?
my daughter keeps on stealing our swag, our t-shirts and hoodies and all that. And she asked me, why do you call it swag? That's something completely different. I mean, and I don't know. That's for the next.
Stuff we all get.
Yeah,
That's
for the
what we
next
all
episode.
get. That's
the
what
next,
we all get.
the next conversation. Well, thank you both for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If people want to reach out and they want to connect with you and find out more about your personalized Stanley, Umbraco, they talk about Adage, where should they reach out?
Well, we are at umbraco.com.
Okay.
Ask ChatGPT about the best CEO of an open source CMS system in Denmark.
All right. There you go.
And you can find us at adagetech.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And my email is jtoohey@adagetech.com.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining me today. I have to say it has been a true pleasure. So I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you,
All
KiKi.
right.
Yep.
Excellent. Oh, I can't believe it. That was such a fantastic conversation. Thanks to Matt. Thanks to Jake. I cannot believe, and actually you can't see her, but a woman behind the scenes that was making a lot of this happen. Thanks to Karen, who was actually organizing and coordinating to make sure that we all showed up at the same place at the same time. You know, something that I just really appreciate is the time and focused that we put on simplicity today. It was really, that was the theme of the day. And I think that this sort of took us on a path from Jake and Matt's talking about moving beyond this superficial personalization toward creating truly engaging digital experiences. And so what I'm hoping we can do with this, what I'm hoping all of you can do with this, is to think about your data in a new way. Maybe think about like simplifying and trying some new things, testing on a regular basis, and just being a little bit more thoughtful about how we're approaching personalization. I also hope that you put a little more thought into maybe your conference swag and keep an eye out and let us know if you find out what works, because obviously we all are really interested in figuring that answer out. Yeah. So with that, if you heard something today, got a takeaway that was especially meaningful to you, or something that you want to share with others, something that made you say, aha, then tag us at Association Chat, share it with the hashtag #AssenChat or Association Chat, most pornographic hashtag #AssenChat out there. We love to know what stood out for you. And then in addition to that, I would like to just say, don't miss our upcoming interview on the ancient wisdom for building stronger communities. This is with the best-selling author, Charles Vogel. If you subscribe to Association Chat now, you're not going to miss it. He's the author of The Art of Community. He's a trusted advisor to Google's School of Leaders. And basically, that's going to be about pulling from ancient wisdom and modern practice. He's going to share the 7 essential principles that can help with any association to foster trust. So I hope you'll join us for that one. That's it for today. Until next time, this is KiKi L'Italian saying, what do I say? Oh, I always say, as Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Can't believe I almost forgot that.